Hey guys, how you doing? Today, like every Saturday, I'm here to talk about an episode of an animated superhero television series, specifically Batman the Animated Series episode, Moon of the Wolf. And also, I will be spoiling just like always, so keep that in mind in case you hate spoilers, or even if you don't and you haven't seen the episode, but this is your good chance to find out just what happened before you hear my review. Either way, you have been warned. The episode opens with a giant werewolf attacking a zookeeper out for a walk. Batman stops the attack and asks Commissioner Gordon if he knows anything about werewolves. Meanwhile, the werewolf comes back to roost, where we find that holding the wolf's leash is Professor Milo, who we have seen once before in Cat Scratch Fever, and is also a somewhat minor recurring character in DC Comics, dating back to the Silver Age. We eventually find out that the werewolf is billionaire Olympic athlete Anthony Romulus, and that sometime back, Romulus came to Milo for some kind of steroid to help him compete. Milo then gave him a formula that would eventually turn him into a half-werewolf on nights of a full moon. Romulus then came to Milo for help, and Milo eventually turned him into a full werewolf, believing that he could control Romulus in his full werewolf form. And to a degree he can, as we saw that he sent Romulus to attack the zookeeper. It turns out that Milo had hired the zookeeper to look the other way while two animals were taken from the zoo, and Milo wanted to remove him so that the crime could not be traced back to him in any way. Meanwhile, in the present day, Romulus advertises that he will double his charity donation if Batman will make an appearance at his home to take the check. Batman doesn't seem to suspect a thing, and walks right into a trap, where he is then kept chained outside of Milo's base of operations, while Milo waits for the moon to transform Romulus. Like an idiot, Milo agitates Romulus so that when he hulks out, he comes after Milo instead of Batman. Eventually, with the help of Mother Nature and her generous use of lightning, Batman is able to defeat Romulus, who remains missing, with ominous hints that he may still be alive. So my first reaction to seeing the title of the episode and then the opening scene was, didn't we already just have an episode a lot like this in the previous episode? And it's true, the episode Tiger Tiger did have quite a few things in common with this episode. You got your mad scientist, check. You got your unwilling guinea pig who is the pawn and or servant of the mad scientist, check. And the fact that both episodes have a big scary beast man of some kind. But other than that, I was pleasantly surprised to see that this episode wasn't extremely similar to Tiger Tiger. For one, I find Milo's motives to be a little easier to understand than Dorian's. For no real reason, Dorian just wanted to create a species of man monsters, just because. Meanwhile, Milo seems to just want money, which is perfectly okay. As my creative writing professor used to say, keep it simple, stupid. And plus, a guy who has been forced to work for Roland Daggett before, it makes sense that he might be moonlighting on the side and doing his own operations to get some cash. Having said that, Milo's character motivations are just about the only thing in this episode that do work. This episode is just weird. There were so many things that I was just puzzled by, but after finding out the reason why the zookeeper was attacked about halfway in, after I assumed that was never going to be explained, I kept thinking maybe this episode will pull itself together. But no, I wasn't so lucky. So what do I not like here? Well, there's the whole contrivance of how this episode even exists in the first place. Romulus comes to Milo for steroids. Now, any athlete is going to know that you can't just do steroids simply because they can be detected in your body when you take them. I mean, that's pretty much basic stuff to understand, right? So there's no real reason that Romulus should even be here asking this very dumb question. But conveniently, Milo happens to have a formula that is undetectable and is also conveniently made out of wolf estrogen, which I guess this is why he needed those wolves from the zoo. But then, did he know that Romulus was going to come to him asking for steroids? Why did Milo have this werewolf serum at hand at all? I get the very strong impression that Milo was baiting Romulus into taking the formula so that he could then be under Milo's thrall. But then, for a smart guy, Milo is one of the dumbest human beings on the planet. If you know full well that your pawn who you're blackmailing is going to turn into a 7.5 foot long, 54-inch wide gorilla, then why wouldn't you develop some way of keeping the pawn under your control? I mean, this is a world where robots can convincingly look like human beings for extended periods of time. So it's not like something pretty simple would be out of the question, right? Heck, a shock collar is all you need. We see that Milo has timed it down to the second when the transformations will begin and end. So 10 seconds before it begins, you put a shock collar on Romulus. Then when he tries to maul you, push the button, he feels excruciating agony. We do know that Milo was somehow able to control Romulus when he was in wolf form, since Romulus did go after the zookeeper, like Milo wanted. So what changed between that attack and when Milo wanted him to go after Batman? The plot needing the episode to end in a certain way that the script wanted it to end is what changed. And speaking of the attack on the zookeeper, there's another thing that this episode has in common with the previous episode in this series. If you will recall, I had a problem with the reason why Selina Kyle was kidnapped in the previous episode. I said that the only real reason was because the episode needed a way to get Batman involved in the story. Now this episode at least has a reason why Romulus is attacking the zookeeper. Milo needs to ensure that nothing can be traced back to him. Although, if we are being honest, Milo trying to cover his tracks was the only real reason why Batman began investigating this whole thing in the first place. If Milo had just left the zookeeper alone, then he could have gotten away with everything. But anyway, although the bad guys at least have a reason for attacking the zookeeper, this attack is still clumsy in that you can see written all over the scene that, like Selina Kyle getting kidnapped in the previous episode, this episode largely exists just to get Batman involved in the story once again. But what exactly does Batman do in this episode? He comes straight to Gordon and asks for help in investigating werewolves. Whoa, 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 Batman, allegedly the world's greatest detective. This is not how you go about conducting a case. You put the information in your computer and let it do the detective work for you. But once again, the plot has to happen in a certain way, so even though Batman is acting wildly out of character here, he has to come tell Gordon about the werewolf attack so that Gordon will send Bullock on the case. There really is no character reason for Batman to tell Gordon anything, especially since he pretty firmly believes that it was some wacko in a mask, even halfway into the episode, after his computer tells him that the hairs he found are legit wolf hairs. And let's talk about that, shall we? So far in this world, we've seen robots who can disguise themselves to look like human beings, a man who can become a werebat, a cat monster who is permanently a cat monster, no where about it, as well as all kinds of other wacky, kooky things that do not exist in the real world. So if this episode was set in the real world, I could totally understand Batman's skepticism. You're telling me a werewolf attacked a zookeeper? How much did you have to drink beforehand? But this episode was not set in the real world, so it really begs the question, why now? Why, of all times, is Batman now deciding to take a page out of the Dana Scully Handbook of Idiocy? You remember all of that stuff that he's come up against, and just in the span of 35 episodes before this one. So why is he so hung up on this being a werewolf? Just last episode, you fought a cat monster. This episode is immensely stupid, guys. You know how you can tell when the people behind this series care about the episode even less than I do by the time it's all said and done? When they don't even bother trying to make Batman the hero of the piece. It sure isn't Batman who saves the city from the menace of the werewolf. It's Thor, the god of thunder, or some other ancient deity who controls the lightning. Heck, maybe it was Maxie Zeus. Yeah, contriving that Mother Nature helped in the defeat of a villain, that's tricky business right there, but it could be done. Your characters are on the edge of a volcano, one of them falls in, it's not the hero who did the villain in, it's the hot molten lava, or magma, or whatever. But this isn't even Mother Nature helping. It's just that Mother Nature straight up defeated the bad guy because Batman was incompetent. Like I say, guys, this episode is all kinds of bad. I really can't remember the last time I despised an episode this much. Maybe the Sewer King episode? I don't know. I am not keeping track of these episodes that are really awful, really. What I am keeping is a little slice of optimism that the next episode of this series turns out to be better than this one. And for that matter, I hope that next week's episode of Batman Beyond turns out to be a fun experience. And that's my segue into mentioning that if you liked my review of this episode, I'm doing the same kind of review every Saturday with either Batman Beyond or Batman the Animated Series. And I'm doing other kinds of reviews throughout the week whenever I have something to review. And if you did like this review, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. In the meantime, just remember, if you do watch this episode, please watch responsibly. Have a friend be the designated watcher. Until next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.